Unfortunately, episode 3 of The Acolyte was mostly a miss for me. I don't think it's going to win over anyone who was on the fence before for sure, but I also don't think it'll push away anyone like me who did enjoy the first 2 episodes. The episode was basically a flashback sequence leading up to the fire set by May, which killed the rest of their family. I'll start with the big thing that I did like about the episode. Primarily, I think it handled the agency of the characters pretty well, and the themes around agency. I think we're still missing some pretty big details about what went on during this episode that we might find out about later, specifically why these events would push Torben in particular to thinking he needed to kill himself. But while we understood earlier that Asha had some generally positive feelings about the Jedi, we got a lot more context for that now, and we also got a lot more context for why May hated them. The episode was also able to show how some of these institutional forces, both within the Coven and within the Jedi, were somewhat disconnected from the lives of the people involved, but on the other hand, you had individuals within that who were able to be a more positive influence for both May and Asha, and this applies to both members within the Coven and the Jedi on both sides of that equation. The Coven, who were responsible for creating May and Asha in an unconventional way apparently, were primarily shown as fear-motivated in what was going on in this episode. They're essentially a different type of Force tradition, and based on what Anastasia says, the Jedi view what they're doing as part of the dark side and are therefore persecuting them in some way. Either them directly or other members of the galaxy see it that way. For Asha, this means she's being pressured to grow up and become a witch when she doesn't want to be one. But from her mother's perspective, this is the only way they can all be safe and together, and a lot of that is what rubs off on May. For Asha, the isolation that they've experienced as kids seems to have instilled a feeling that there must be something more out there, while for May, she's kind of latched onto Asha, and it feels like her identity is wrapped up in the fact that it's the two of them, they need to be together. Mother Coral kind of represents this most within the leadership of the Coven. What Asha wants does not matter, and it can't matter because she's a kid. She still thinks she's doing this for Asha's well-being, but she's not willing to consider her actual wishes at all. On the other hand, while Mother Anastasia clearly has a preference, she doesn't push Asha in the same way, and she at least shows or pays lip service to the idea that this is a choice that Asha has to make, and she encourages her to make this choice through what she actually wants, rather than just giving into fear about what the consequences might be. Advice that Coral and May probably need to hear a little bit more too. May lets that fear dominate her, and that's why she ends up burning down everything. The Jedi, for their part, come across as rather cold and indifferent in a lot of cases, the exception to this obviously being Master Soul. And Soul remains a highlight of the series for me as well. Indara was asserting the rights of the Jedi, but she also didn't seem to be paying as much attention to the realities of the situation for Asha or her family. Whereas for Master Soul, there did seem to be a genuine concern for Asha being able to choose what she wanted to do. It seems at this point like we're supposed to believe that the explosion might have been what killed everyone, but I still think there's more going on there because what we saw in this episode may be enough to motivate May in what she's doing in hunting down the Jedi, but I really don't think it reached the level where it would be enough to make Torben take the Barash vow and then drink poison in 16 years or whatever. And that's kind of what gets me to the main problems I had with the episode. The biggest thing is that this is episode 3 of the season. This is week 2. And the big focus of the episode was just showing us stuff that we already knew happened. I again appreciated getting more of those perspectives from May and Asha, but I feel like it was still information we already had about them and could already glean from what we saw in episodes 1 and 2. We had further confirmation of some of those things and a bit more context for why they might have felt certain ways, but there wasn't really much that evolved my understanding of the twins as characters or even Master Soul. So it was a lot of screen time to put towards this when it does feel like we're left with just as many questions about the events as we went into the episode with. There's still 6 more years before Torben actually does take the Barash vow, so we're probably going to see a bit more of that coming up. But maybe I would have felt differently if the episode expanded a bit more into the future and the aftermath of these events, rather than just going so much into the build-up. Those are my thoughts for now. Wednesday night, myself and Eckhart Slatter will be talking about the episode on TapCaf Transmission, so hope some of you will join us then. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time.